morning, it's Miss Coconut. How are you doing? I'm doing well. Happy Valentine's Day. So listen, if you like to celebrate this day, please celebrate it. Life is short. If you don't like to celebrate, don't celebrate it. Life is short. Either way, have a great day. Love on yourself, love on the people in your life. I'm not going to talk about the origins of Valentine's Day because I believe at this stage in the game, all of you have enough analytical sense to realize there's always something behind the push for consumerism surrounding these holidays, right? So do what you do best. We're going to talk about something completely different, but gory. And we're going to talk about the Cecil Hotel. It's trending right now because it's actually on Netflix as some kind of like crime watch documentary series where they're investigating this crime that occurred a few years ago with a young lady by the name of Elisa Lamb. She was a Canadian student who came to California, wanted to sightsee, and she checked into this very famous hotel called the Cecil Hotel and ultimately met her death. Her murder, we don't know if it's a murder, but we assume it's a murder. It has been investigated but never solved. So we're going to talk about that and the history of the hotel. So anyway, this particular hotel, it was built in 1924. When you break that down, 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 2 is 12, plus 4 is 16. And then 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 is the number of trouble and things that go bump in the middle of the night. 7 is not a good number all the time in cartomancy, okay? And so when the hotel opened, it was actually opened by 3 hoteliers, and they're very, rich men. I would love to delve into their background a little bit to see how their life turned out. Like, we know they had money, but I wonder what kind of deals was made, because once they opened this hotel to be like a hotel for traveling businessmen, it was very opulent and lush in some valuable land. But from almost the moment they opened it, it was plagued by murder and mayhem. So it makes me wonder what kind of deal was set up in the beginning with these 3 gentlemen. We know 3 can be a number of confusion, right? Because anytime you're entering into an agreement with 3 parties, that is no longer a unit. So 3 can also be a number of trouble. So anyway, okay. So they open the hotel and people start dying, literally by suicide. So they say anyway. People start killing themselves by either shooting themselves. Several people took poison, which I don't know if that is a code word for drug use or overdose, because the hotel is located near Skid Row, where you find lots of homelessness and drug. It's like near one of the largest open air drug markets in the country, okay? And so almost from the beginning, you have very convoluted stories. Like, one lady was pregnant. She was, I think, with her fiance or husband, I'm not sure, boyfriend. She didn't know she was pregnant. She gave birth, did not wake up her partner, and then thinking the baby was dead, threw the baby out the window. Baby wasn't even dead. And this kind of theme happened repeatedly over and over and over. Somebody was murdered by another person. They called her the pigeon lady, which I've seen this pigeon lady like in stories. I would love to look up the symbology of that now that I know the backstory. But I didn't have time for all that. But somebody jumped out. Well, a few people jumped out the window, but one person jumped out the window and killed somebody by landing on them. I mean, the stories just got worse and worse and worse, y'all. Like, wow, this is very depressing. So there is some kind of curse associated with this hotel that's very obvious. And again, I haven't looked into the three owners, but I would love to see how their life played out because clearly they did something wrong. At this point, the hotel eventually was sold and the name was changed because they're trying to get away from the stigma that's associated with the name of the hotel. In addition to people killing themselves and getting murdered, 2 serial killers lived here. Yeah, 2. So American Horror Story, y'all know that's a Netflix show. It's really good. We all loved it. Some of it got really gory and crazy, but a little bit of the hotel scenes and stories are kind of loosely based around the fact of this particular hotel. Okay, so not only did we have suicide often, we had murder, we had mystery, and we had serial killers that resided there. One of the most famous ones was called Night Stalker, okay? And apparently he didn't kill the people there, but he would kill them and come back there and get rid of his clothes behind the dumpster, and nobody paid attention because there is a lot of homelessness occurring there. And so the homeless people, they sleep out on the streets and on the sidewalks and all of that stuff. And people, are strung out, and it's just a very desolate place, okay? So the Night Stalker, it is known that he's killed at least 14 people. He had a lot of disturbing brutality, and he lived on the top floor of this Cecil hotel, and he would dump his bloody clothes outside in the trash bins, and they said he was into Satanism. So, yeah. And another serial killer also checked into this hotel. But anyway, let's move forward. So now we have this student that comes, and the Netflix series starts to try to figure out what occurred. A lot of people on the internet have some very interesting theories about Elisa Lam, because one of the things associated with her name, which when you're decoding, get into the habit of plugging in people's names into an anagram generator so you can see what pops up. So people did the work for us. Several things popped up, but one of the things is that her name is actually the same name for the test of a certain TB, tuberculosis test, because they're saying in that part of Los Angeles, there is an outbreak occurring with the homeless population, and that the powers that be are doing some kind of weird testing on the people there, and experimentation on the people there related to tuberculosis, and that there's some kind of marker or key with her name, and that she was used as a study. So I don't know what side of the fence you guys reside on when it comes to those kinds of things. The other thing about her name, there wasn't a movie actually, I believe, called Dark Waters that's associated with her name, because one of the things that was interesting with this case is she checked in. Some people say she has some kind of bipolar disorder, but at some point they saw the videotape of her being on the elevator. They saw her acting very erratic. She was pushing buttons, okay? And then eventually she got off the elevator and disappeared, only to be found, I think 2 weeks later, on top of the roof inside of one of the water tank reservoirs. And the only reason why they knew to look up there is because the residents of the hotel started reporting that the water was tasting funny and looking funny, and apparently she was in the water decomposing. Isn't that gross? That's like a ritual all on its own, y'all. So anyway, another theory is that when they saw her pushing the buttons and looking really crazy and waving her hands is because there's this elevator game that you can play. And there's a series of buttons that you push on the elevator. And it has to be an elevator that goes up at least 10 floors. And you push the buttons in a series of pattern, and it will take you up to another dimension. And on the 5th floor, you may see like a ghostly woman or whatever, and you're not supposed to look at her or talk to her. And then if you get to the 10th floor, you head to the next dimension. I know all this sounds weird, but I just want to give y'all all the spooky tea surrounding this Netflix story, okay? So anyway, they are saying that, some people are saying that the backstory to this, because sometimes in Hollywood, they give us these stories and these occurrences happen, and people are always like saying, oh, that's a false flag. But in my opinion, just because something is a false flag doesn't mean that they don't use real people, or doesn't mean that real people can be casualties. Does that make sense? Other interesting connection about that movie, I think it's called Dark Waters, is that the girl, it's basically a story about a girl that gets murdered or killed or whatever by water on top of an apartment building inside a water tank. Very odd coincidence, right? But the girl in the movie, her name was Cecil. Like the hotel. Very crazy. Also, they're saying that Elisa Lam, she was into lots of conspiracy theories as well herself. She was very a very avid truth seeker, it seems. And she kind of was tweeting about Aleister Crowley, who actually wrote a poem about a guy whose daughter's name was Elisa or Celia, and it's basically Elisa when you rearrange the letters. Lots of creepy coincidences about her name. Like Elisa Lam can also be used to spell malaise, and that means a sense of unease, like when you're about to get some type of illness. I don't know. Y'all let me know what you think. Very interesting conspiracy. It's all the buzz right now. Watch it. Look it up. Tell me what you think. Talk down in the description box and let me know if you found the murder of Elisa Lam intriguing. Again, she was on some type of vacation in California. She stayed at the Cecil Hotel. She was found about 2 weeks after she disappeared on top of the hotel's building inside of the water tank reservoir. She was naked. They found no alcohol or drugs in her body. This case remains a mystery to this day. Okay, y'all. I'll be back with another intriguing video, I'm sure, shortly. Maybe Tuesday. That's my time for today. As always, Om Shrim Brezi.